Right, it's time, as promised at the top of the show, to talk England Lions with ECB lead fast bowling coach Neil Killeen. Let's talk about this tour, Killer, if we may.
Yeah,
Four matches. The most intriguing is the first one against Ben Stokes's team. I mean, there's a perception, obviously, that your lot are going to be basically a sparring partner and a punch bag. How's the game going to play out? I mean, will it? Do you think it'll be intense?
yeah, I think it will. Yeah, I mean, I think the boys, well, certainly our boys are certainly up for it. I know it looks like the England boys are ready to play this game in a really competitive spirit, which is going to be really exciting. And I mean, I look at it from the Lions' point of view. What an exciting moment for some of these young lads to go and play against the full England side and put yourself in the shop window.
Phil, I mean, you're right. You're out there sort of mirroring the England party. So there's going to be a huge amount of pressure and a huge amount of questions asked whenever you're sort of side by side and the media scrutiny that comes with it. I mean, that can only be a good thing for some of these young lads because you're hoping. And we were just joking aside there before about being a sort of, bowling coach, but you're hoping that some of these bowlers one, possibly could be ready for this Ashes trip if England have a disaster when it comes to injuries. But two, more importantly, will be ready for the next Ashes at home and potentially the next Ashes away.
Yeah, look, the role of this Lions group and the work that kind of Ed Barney, Fred, and myself are trying to do is to give these lads opportunities to experience things which they're going to have to experience if they step up to that top level. And the more environments, the more people we can put them around, the more experiences, the more surfaces, the more kind of places we can take them to experience what that's like is only going to help them along that journey.
And you've got 3 games. I think it's three games after the England game. So you're touring Australia. You're going Perth. You're going Canberra. You're going Brisbane. What's them games going to look like? Because there's a variant there. There's a 2-day game, a 3-day game, and a 4-day game. You're gonna come up against Australia here in Brisbane. Is your lead up to that game the sort of 2 warm-up games, and that's going to be a first-class match, and we're going to nail playing against Australia here?
Yeah, look, that's certainly what we'll look to do. We were out here last winter and we played some strong games against Australia here. So we got the first one, we go to Canberra where we play a 2-day, day-night pink ball game, which again, in itself is a huge experience that you just can't replicate anywhere. So they're going to put out, be interested to see who they turn out. I mean, you look at the squad that they've picked this week, there's quite a lot of names that they haven't picked in that squad. So I would imagine we'll get some of them comes up against the Lions, which again is going to be a really exciting moment for some of these lads. But to go day night with a pink ball is another experience which some of these guys haven't had. They won't have played a huge amount of 4-day cricket back in England. Certainly won't have probably played the pink ball games, which were a couple of years ago. So it's a new experience. We then come back the first one's against an Australia 11 here in Perth. So again, that's going to be a strong game at Lilac Hill. And then we go back for the kind of what we would class the first class test match in Brisbane.
You know, we used to talk about game time and the importance of game time and match overs in legs. Have you found yourself adapting to a new era and a different way of preparation? I mean, there seems to be a feeling, obviously there's many people observing with some concern that Mark Wood hasn't played a game for months. But have you reviewed the way you see conditioning? Do you think players can now, in this day and age, get conditioned to play in a match in a test series by putting overs in practice?
Well, I think we have to, just because of the way schedules and things like that operate now. Playing in matches is always going to be really good preparation, but we can only play in matches when kind of time allows and people are ready to play in matches. And I think what we need to do is make sure that we give enough preparation time outside of that and try and replicate as close as we can the amount of time that they spend, 1, bowling and 2, on their feet, ready for that longer form cricket.
I look at this, the Lions bowling group, a name stands out because he's been pushed a little bit in the 100 and he's made his ODI debut, and that's Sonny Baker. Josh Hull, he's made his test debut. You've got the likes of Eddie Jacks, Matt Fisher's played Test match cricket. When you look at the sort of the rise of where they've sort of been and come from, how do you manage their development? And is it key that, you know, there's a few of them got like development central contracts, so you then produce their program as opposed to the counties? How important is that?
Well, basically what it does, you look at that group, and especially there's a number of different kind of levels of experience within that group, like you've just alluded to. Some have played a number of first-class games, some haven't played many at all. And I think what those contracts that we put out with that group allow us to do is, one, allow us to work really closely with how they're working in their counties, on what they're working on from a bowling point of view and from a physical point of view, as well as adding to the rest of it in kind of psychological, all of those aspects as well. But it allows us to get them in a really good place, work hand in hand with counties, so as when they then do make that step up, we're in a stronger position for them to be able to succeed when they get to that international level. And again, that all fits into where the Lions program drops in as well, because then we then give them those experiences of experiencing things outside of the country in different environments, different sort of pitches and all of that sort of stuff as well.
I'm not going to ask you, it'd be unfair to ask you, and you wouldn't have the answer for how many Test matches Mark Wood or Jofra Archer are going to play. But you've been in charge of, you know, the elite program, so you've managed them, you know, getting into this trip. You know, you manage them when they're injured and stuff like that. I've just done a newspaper article for a newspaper in Australia, and like Man has mentioned before, Mark hasn't played since February. I've got no problem with Mark Wood going straight into a Test match and playing. He's proven over his career that he can do that. I think his problem is the recovery part to then go again. How happy are you where England's bowlers are at this moment in time? Not just Archer, not just Wood, but where all their bowlers are. But I think the headline acts, and a lot of people's on the names on a lot of people's lips, is Wood and Archer. You know, how happy are you seeing how they've developed over the course of this preparation part of the tour to where they need to be to potentially play in Perth, Brisbane, and potentially Adelaide?
Yeah, I'm very happy. They've come through a period through this last sort of month, and well, longer than the last month, when they've coming back through some work at Loughborough and then out into where they are now in Perth, going into this game against the Lions this week. I'm really happy with where they're operating, and looking forward to seeing what they put out there this week.
What about the pitches in Australia, Killer? I mean, I know England have gone for pace where possible, and it's a quite a collection of fast bowlers. Was there? I mean, I know you didn't select the squad, but do you think that there is perhaps more of a place now for those 80-mile-an-hour bowlers? Batsmen seem to be averaging less, and the scores are not so high in Australia in recent years.
I think when you look at the numbers of what's succeeding and what's working in international and Test cricket, it's those quicker men that are operating at 85 plus, which are producing the smaller numbers. So, I mean, that's why if you look around the teams around world cricket now, they've got a good group of fast bowlers in that group. And alongside that, we've got a group of bowlers there who are very skillful. You look at the likes of Josh Tong, Gus Atkinson, Matthew Potts in that group as well. They're very accurate, very skillful bowlers.
And you know, looking at this Lilac Hill contest, you've played in Perth, you know, as in overseas as in club cricket. Lilac Hill's surface is going to be a lot different to the Optus Stadium. How do you make that transition? And more importantly, you know, from a bowler's point of view who's possibly struggled, I'm talking about my experiences there. When you're talking about lengths in Australia are so key and so crucial. Do you work in that game at Lilac Hill where the ball's probably not going to bounce as much as it is in the Optus? Or do you look at sort of grooving a length which potentially might have to be a little bit fuller than what you would normally bowl at it, you know, vice versa for the venue that they're going to be playing at?
Yeah, look, I think you've got to play the surface that you're playing on. That's always the case. You know, I mean, you've been numerous places around the world, and you get in there. The key thing for me is about getting in the battle. And in this game, it's about having that wicket-taking mentality, whether that be against England Lions or whether that be against Australia. For me, it's about wicket-taking mentality and getting into that battle as quick as they can in this game. and finding out what your lengths are. I mean, what your lengths are to hit the top of off stump would be different to what my lengths are to hit the top of off stump. And working out how that is for you really quickly is really important.
And this is probably going to be the biggest criticism that this preparation for this tour is going to get. A lot of former players are having a go. I've been guilty of it in the past. I've been a little bit in between this time. But you're talking about getting into the battle. I think the getting into the battle bit will be a lot easier for the Lions bowlers to get into the battle with the England batters. But how do you get the England bowlers to get into the battle with the Lions batters? Because for me, that's why I see this one and only game being a very, very difficult preparation point, because that battle I don't think will be as colossal as what the bowlers from the Lions will show, because they'll be saying, right, I can get an Ashes spot here if anybody gets injured, going against Crawley, Duckett, Pope, whoever, where Archer, Wood, Tongue, Atkinson going against what likes of Tom Haines and people like that might not be as severe a battle, and be ready preparation wise for the first time.
Yeah, look, I think these boys are still very hungry to perform, and I think they're very hungry to, well, seeing them this week, they're really hungry to get going and get sort of into this game. Those players that you're talking about there are still very good players as well. These Lions lads are good players who are challenging for places in that international setup, and I think the teams that'll go into this week will put a really strong competition on out at Lilac Hill, and I'm certainly excited to see how that pans out.
Finally, for me, Kill, how are you enjoying it? Yeah,
oh,
I mean, I've been one of your best. Me and you have been best mates for 25 years, and I think I've seen Nasser Hussain smile more than what you do, because you're a miserable so and so. But and even there now. But how are you enjoying? I mean, it's an Ashes series. It's going to be so exciting. You're there. You're in the forefront of it. I mean, how are you enjoying it?
Oh, it's absolutely brilliant. I mean, to be out here in and around and alongside the Ashes boys going into a series, it's really, really exciting. And to have a group of bowlers who you've spent the last couple of years working with, and with 4 of them pretty much most of my life working with, is really, really exciting, and actually really proud. That's where I feel with what's going in, and I think we're going into this Ashes in a really strong position. So I can't wait for it to get going.
Enjoying working with Andrew Flintoff?
Yeah, I love him working with Fred. It's he's a great guy, great character who I've known for years. Spent quite a lot of time over the years with both him and Harmy. Probably too many wrong places at times, but you know, yeah, it's been really good.